Hey everybody, what's up and welcome back to the Starcraft 2 Own It Shack. It's David here bringing you another first-person video, episode 9 I believe of my Masters League quest, and this is going to be a Terran vs. Terran that I played here on the map Backwater Gulch. It's the first time I think I've ever cast a game on this map. Of course many of you probably saw the game I cast on Force's channel, which is a mech game versus Protoss. Pretty interesting. But this one I thought was a little bit more interesting because this game shows a very unorthodox situation that I think all StarCraft players should probably get used to because it can happen quite a bit. And what it is essentially is how you react when both players take massive damage at the beginning of the game, and you're going to see exactly what I mean by this. So first off, it is a Terran versus Terran, like I said. And so I'm going to be trying something a little bit different that I normally don't do. As I'm sure many of you know by now, I love Blue Flame Hellion drops. But at the request of Tasteless and Artosis, they said that people doing the Hellion drop might want to consider adding in a Reaper. And so that's what I'm going to be doing here. I'm going to be using that Reaper to scout what he's doing so that I can essentially abort the Hellion drop if I don't think it's going to be effective. So anyways, you're going to want to scout pretty early here. It's Terran versus Terran, so basically all you want to look for inside here is the gas and a second barracks. So I immediately see one barracks, and I'm just going to be harassing his building SCV there. He does pull one off the line, however, to deal with mine, so I abort that idea. And instead, I'm just going to be checking around here. I see, okay, one gas and, whoa, two gas. That is definitely strange to say the least. When I see two gas, the Terran versus Terran, there's only one thing it could possibly be, and that's Banshees. And Blue Flame Hellion drop versus Banshees, probably not the greatest thing. The good thing about it is that you can get a Viking after, so it can still be pretty decent. Anyways, I'll just be continuing to get Marines here for now, put that factory up at the normal time. And the only difference between this and my other games is that I'm going to get a little bit of early gas, just so that I can get that Reaper out without sacrificing the timing of my drop. And yeah, it's pretty much the story here. As you can see, there goes the factory, and the second gas should come up pretty easy. Yeah, there it goes, immediately after the factory. And then you're going to want to get a tech lab on your barracks as well. I've also spread those Marines out just in case of a Hellion coming up into my base. Don't have to deal with that at all. So as you can see here, I'm just mining. Notice on the minimap I've stored my SCV over at the Zelnaga watchtower there just so I can see if any push comes. There goes his scouting SCV getting killed instantly by the two Marines I had positioned there. Do note I play with game sounds pretty loud just so that I can hear my Marines start shooting at that SCV if I'm not paying attention to the minimap when he walks up. It just allows me to have a little bit more oh my goodness, a little bit more map awareness is what I was trying to say. And basically, that's kind of important because map awareness, it essentially gives you control of your opponent in some ways. It allows you to know when it's okay to push out, when you need to be very defensive, and when it's alright to be a little bit more sloppy, although that's not something you ever want to do. And so as you can see, the Reaper is going to be quite invaluable here because it's going to let me see what he's doing, and I'm going to have to change my build-up a bit after seeing what I see here. And this is probably something you guys have not seen for a few months, and you're going to see exactly what I mean by that quite soon. So anyways, now that the Reaper's done, I'm going to lift that barracks up, and then I'll put my factory down on the tech lab, and I've already got a couple Hellions out, and this is where I'm going to decide what I want to do. So I'm going to come in here and I see a tech lab barracks and multiple Reapers. Okay, that's a little bit novel to say the least. His Reapers, of course, will beat mine. And I immediately think, alright, I need a bunker here. He's going for mass Reapers. I need to get some Marines in a bunker. I also decide maybe I want to wall off right there, but then I'm like, nah, screw it. They'll just go around the other side. I also scrap Hellion production and instead try and get a siege tank out. The siege tank, believe it or not, is much better versus Reapers than a Hellion. Believe it or not, a Reaper will kill a Hellion in a one-on-one fight. And because my Hellions don't even have Blue Flame, that further augments the problem here. So the barracks, sorry, not the barracks, the bunker is coming up, but I don't even have time to get my Marines in there before his his Reapers come and just start owning SCVs. You have to pull it off. The tank is going to be coming out here, and that's going to be pretty much what you need to deal with all of these Reapers. He's just killing a ridiculous amount of SCVs though with them, but with the tank arriving and the Hellion support, there's no problem getting rid of those. And so now, you might notice at my starport, I've already started producing a Banshee, and I'm also getting Cloak, and that's when his Banshee comes in. So I immediately am like, wow, this guy is one really cheesy player. From Mass Reaper to Banshee, there's no way this guy is possibly going to have a command center or anything like that. I have no anti-air, but I do have a Banshee of my own, so I'm going to take that over to his base and start killing his SCVs for a change. And another thing you'll notice, the Viking is almost out, and I know that because he got all those Reapers, there's not a chance in hell that he has Cloak at this point. That would be a ridiculous amount of gas to get off of just one base this early, so there's no possible way. And now that I kill his Banshee, I'm going to just start saturating my mineral line once again, and start owning some of his workers here. I also want to take care of any Marines that come out, and yeah, patrol with that Viking, make sure nothing funky's going on. So I've killed a decent amount of SCVs, and now he's pulled them all. When they pull them, just go and find them and start shooting them again. Here they all are. Also taking out any units. Gonna get a lot of scouting information there as well. I see a command center coming up. I also see multiple starports, so I figure he must be really wanting some air. I'm a little confused by the starports though, and it's quite clear that he doesn't have enough. Actually, scrap that. There's something I want to point out here. You'll notice he has Cloak finally now. What I've been doing this whole time is saving scans. Now my Cloak is finished, and he hasn't been saving scans, so I can go and own his SCV line. Look, he just called down a mule. You can see there's hardly any energy on his command center right there. Now, when I saw that Banshee, I immediately stopped mules because I knew I needed to have that energy for the scan when his Banshees inevitably got Cloak. And that's quite important. I suggest all of you try that, because having no scans when a Banshee is in your base is devastating. You can see the result. My Banshee now has, looks like 19 kills. That's insane. That's way more kills than his Banshee's got. You know, probably get... I don't even remember how many kills this Banshee got, but you can see it's quite ridiculous. And he's finally almost working his way back up to 50 energy for a scan. I've also denied his command center from completing by killing the SCV that was building it. And this Banshee now has, it's 28 kills. And I think, okay, yeah, I think it finished with 28 kills there. And, well, what can I say? That's impressive to say the least. So now at this point, I feel like we're kind of even, and I have no idea how even we are. The only thing I'm a little bit worried about is if he got a hidden expansion somewhere. But to counteract that, what I'm going to be doing here is getting hidden expansion myself. This, and let me explain, there's a very explicit reason for that. We just both did insane amounts of damage to each other as I added a second armory there. Huge mistake. I didn't realize I'd already started the first one, so I will cancel that later. But anyways, like I was saying, if you've both done massive damage to each other, there's really no way they're going to be offensive anytime soon, and them scouting your expansion is extremely unlikely. They're probably going to be focusing on re-macroing and just getting an army back up. And again, saturating SCVs at their main. It's very unlikely that they'll be exploring the map with such a small amount of units, because we've essentially whittled each other's armies down to nothing at this point. And so that's something you're going to want to be aware of, and there goes the SCV to build that expansion in a very random location over at the top right base. It's far away from my base, but it doesn't matter. One of the great benefits of having that expansion over there is that if he tries to attack it with drops, I can just go push on his main, because his army is going to be so far out of position, and that's quite important. And as you can see, I now have a Thor coming out. The Thor is there just to deal with any further Banshee play that he might be throwing at me. I saw 2 starports, so of course it only makes sense to get Thors. Thors do sick damage versus light units such as Banshees, so it's quite crucial to have 1 or 2 in your army if they are going for airplay. And I have been looking at my mini-map, so I see this drop coming, and I just snip this right in the bud. I don't understand why he was dropping this early. He drops a point defense drone to block my Viking shots, It was really the turret that was doing some sick damage there, though. And yeah, I cleaned that up, no problem. I do lose my siege tank, however, but I will be producing more of those constantly. And I basically saw some Marines, Marauders, and the medevac combination there. And that immediately tells me I have to go for tank Marine. Don't bother going for Vikings. He's not going to have that many tanks with all those Marauders he's putting out. And tank Marine beats tank Marine Marauder in a straight up fight, because the Marines are much better than Marauders for their cost versus other light units and siege tanks. So that's just a little thing to note. The DPS of Marines is quite high, and my expansion is going to be finishing there. However, I do not transfer a huge amount of STVs, and the reason for that, you'll see I only transfer about 2, I think, the 2 that were building my barracks. And that's simply so that if he's watching the map, which he probably will be, because this is a very highly rated Terran player, he won't see a massive line of SCVs going that way, revealing that I have a hidden base. So that's my reasoning, essentially. But what I will be doing is calling down all of my mules over at that base, simply because I want to mine that base out as fast as possible so that I can get all its resources before he finds it. So quite simple logic there. It's important. I think that it's something you guys should really do. Always call down your mules at your expansions rather than your mains, so that you can be mining off of 2 bases for as long as possible. Just a little tip there for you guys, for those of you who might not be, you know, diamond level player yet. So, alright, just keeping on top of my supply now, and also have an engineering bay up to get those upgrades. I've already got +1 on my mech, I believe, and that armory's, oh wait, no, it's just about finishing. That armory's essentially going to allow me to get, you know, the extra upgrades from my engineering bay after as well. You'll also want to put turrets up at your expansion here. The reason I did this is because I saw you already had cloak banshees, and 1 cloak banshee over there, and my expansion's denied. So that's my reasoning right there. And I'm also planning at this point to get an expansion at my natural, because I don't want it to look too suspicious. If he comes in and sees that I have no expansion at my natural, then he's going to be thinking, there's no way you're on 1 base for this long, what's going on? So that's what I'm going to do there. I'm also transferring a couple more SCVs over that way. Not too many though, not too many that it's completely bait, but obviously enough that he will know. And I see he's pushing in, so I just siege up my tanks. Always hotkey those to 2, and oh, that was quite strange. Huh. I didn't notice that during the actual game, but man, that was weird. Also snipe the Raven there, that's pretty important. Denies his vision of the high ground. And what you're going to want to do is kill off the Marauders. The tanks do a great job of that. And I do lose all my siege tanks, but once the Marauders are done, I can just pretty much raffle stomp his tanks with my Thors. Be decisive in this position. I also stim my Marines, run right up, and also notice I'm target firing my Thors onto his tanks, because you don't want those hitting medevacs or any surrounding units. The tanks are the major damage dealers. So also notice I'm really trying to keep up on my macro here, and it's kind of tough because my APM isn't super high yet, but that's been basically my goal for the past little while. And there goes that natural expansion. My main goal has been to constantly be producing units, as well as to do decent harassment. I've kind of slacked on the harassment, but the reason for that is because I do believe that constant unit production is more important than constant harassment. And this is something I found out by watching the GSL, seeing OGS Top play. It was absolutely beautiful. I was watching one of his games, and I simply looked at the production tab for about 5 minutes. There wasn't 1 second where I didn't see 2 siege tanks and 8 Marines being produced. It was constant. Not once did he falter. And I think what he's doing to do that is queuing his units. And a lot of people, Day 9 especially, say queuing is bad. And I agree with that if you have the skill to actually not be queuing and be on top of when every unit completes to start new ones. For me, however, that's probably not a realistic goal at this point. So what I'm going to be doing is queuing some of my units so that production is constant. I really feel like that is worth the lost resources that you invest in a unit that isn't building yet. So it's what I'm going to be doing. I suggest for you lower level players you do that too. Now by no means do I suggest that you queue excessively. As for example, stacking 5 SCVs at your command center or something ridiculous like that. But having the next set ready, I think that's a good idea. So that's what I'm going to try to be doing here. And as you can see, I'm leaving my camera up over the barracks quite a bit here just to make sure that they're always producing. The main is almost mined out. The natural is just about started, so I can transfer over those SCVs on time. Nice and easy. So now, if you were to just objectively look at this game, you would notice that it looks like a normal game now. Of course, you'd have to block out the fact that we're at 21 minutes and we have only 120 supply armies, but still, the game is now normalized, and I've essentially managed to transition into normal play after a very cheesy strategy was used against me. And obviously, my Cloak Banshee was really no better, but I was just reacting to what he was doing. And he's going to try and push up here. That is a horrible idea. I've seen this happen on this map before. This is the worst ramp you could possibly push up. And I'm going to be decisive, use my Thors to tank the damage from the siege tanks, and target fire those tanks, as you can see right there. Then after those tanks are dead, I just pull back to mine, and if he tries to pursue, he's dead. So that's pretty much, honestly, I'm loving mixing in those two Thors with my army. It's just so good. And I'll also be cleaning up that unit that I spotted with my sensor tower. I've erected 2 sensor towers just to protect against any drops, so I can see those coming. Another thing that I want to try and get better at here in my gameplay, something I've been working on, is actually watching the minimap more, because it's so important. You can catch tons of stuff going on, and like as you can see right now in the minimap, his drops are coming in, but I'm not looking, so I react too slowly. And by the way, I'm on 3 base now, so I'll get 2 factories. That's my timing that I use. I'm also going to get a reactor on the starport. So now I got a bunch of marauders in my base, and you're going to see they do some pretty decent damage here. They snipe the armory that's researching the upgrade. That always sucks. Obviously my slow units come up here to try and clean it up. I snipe the medevac with the Thor, but the damage has been done. I mean, losing that upgrade, that's not good. It's very important to have upgrades. And now I wisely put the armory on the other side of my base, which is something I'm probably going to be doing from now on. And also I saw his medevacs going towards my expansion, so finally I look at the minimap, I see, okay, there he is, and I immediately pull the SCVs to try and surround anything that medevac might drop, and I essentially push him away that way. Now, because his army's out of position and he has some units loaded up, I take the opportunity to go push on his base, and I just scan ahead just to make sure nothing crazy's over there. Don't want to lose to battle cruisers, which I have done in the past before on my new favorite maps, Typhon Peaks. Hate that map almost as much as Slag hits now, but anyways, as you can see, he hasn't invested in siege tanks, and he tried to engage that head on. He's lost too much. My hidden base has been up for too long, and this is essentially the push of death at the end. There's really nothing he can do to stop this. He didn't have the income to match what I had, and when I have the more cost-efficient army and a higher base count, my opponent loses. It's quite simple. So anyways, that's this game pretty much. And do note, I just went straight for the main. I just wanted to take out his production facilities, not too worried about his income. And I also re-rally my units right at my my ramp there, simply because you can see he's trying to do a little mini counter push, and that can be slightly annoying to deal with. So anyways, I'll just pull the SCVs. It doesn't really matter at this point. I've pretty much won, and I'll stim what reinforcements have arrived and just force a GG. So there you go. That's pretty much this game. I thought it was very interesting, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. This was actually a pretty highly rated Terran. He was about 3,300, I think. Let's just take a look here. Also, by the way, you will notice, woo, tons of games played, and yeah, 3,300 rated Terran, so a great player. Glad to have taken this guy out. Sorry. And please leave me a comment, just letting me know if you like this new music I've added. It's the Brood War Terran soundtrack. I really prefer it to the Starcraft 2, but I might be willing to change it if you so desire. So anyways, once again, thanks for watching. Hope to see you again for another daily dose of ownage.